Welcome to the Nobody Knowz podcast with Callie Zamzo. Join us for conversations with local changemakers and hear the stories that don't always get told. It'll be honest, messy and beautiful, touching and humorous. Slow down, pour a glass, and pull up a chair. This is the Nobody Knowz podcast.
Welcome to Nobody Knowz. I'm your host, Callie Zamzo, and I want to start off right away talking about manure. It's our tip of the week, actually the Zamzo's tip of the week. I realized I was in a store the other day and there was a whole discussion about compost versus manure. And a lot of people apparently come into the stores and they ask for a manure, thinking that it's compost. So I thought I would just really quickly help everybody understand that if you're talking about gardening and using something in your garden, you're probably mean to say compost, not manure. So manure is poop. And it can be chicken, it can be, cow, it can be, there are various different types of manure. And it's raw. It is, it's come out of the animal. It's been processed through the animal. But there are often still pathogens. There can be, depending upon the animal, there could be seeds that were eaten that made it through that could end up being a weed in your garden. It smells bad. The nitrogen is not stable yet. It hasn't been processed enough. And so if you put down manure, you can burn your plants sometimes because the nitrogen's a little bit too strong. And so in essence, it's a great starting point, but it needs to be broken down. It has to be given time to break down. And that's what the whole composting process is for. So by the time that manure and other things have been worked through a compost pile, the microbes have taken time to break it down, and they stabilize that nitrogen. They can kill the weed seeds. It just changes the composition entirely and then makes it a wonderful thing to put on your garden. And we do sell compost at Zamzo's. We sell it both bagged or bulk, depending upon how much of it you need. And you can stop by any of our 12 Zamzo's locations, and we can help you with that. I'm also going to continue down this line of thinking because I have a little story about when I was a kid, because my dad decided that he was going to bring in a truckload, and I'm not kidding, it was a truckload of raw manure. And we had this old garage where the back doors would open, and he actually had the truck back in through the garage and dump it on this piece of our yard that was in the back. And it was the largest pile of poop I've ever seen in my life. And I don't know, I was probably maybe 7 or 8. And, kids, like a big pile of dirt is fun. It's fun to play in. It's fun to get, but we learned very quickly that we didn't want to have anything to do with it. And it was in the fall that he had it delivered. And he let it sit out there all winter, and that thing steamed. And we would go out just to be around it because it was just like this phenomenon to watch it. It was hot. And anyway, I just remember it was vivid as a kid. And then by spring, it had broken down enough, and he'd been turning it all winter long and adding things to it. And eventually it became this huge compost pile that then he used on the garden. But I wouldn't recommend that to people. Okay, so this is, I realize, a very strange opening, but it's to introduce my guest today, who is lovely. There's nothing manure-y about her. Lisa Knapp. She is the Materials Management Program Coordinator and Compost Program Lead for the city of Boise. That's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful. It's a ridiculous title. So,
and there's so much to it. There's so much that I want to talk to you today about. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. So thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. I saw you. I always like it when I'm telling something and the guest is nodding, and so you were feeling everything I was saying there.
Oh yeah. We talk about manure quite a bit in the compost world. So yeah.
Yeah, it's something. And I think for the squeamish, the thought of it is just like, well, what? But it's actually just a part of the circle of life as far as I'm concerned. And, and the animals are doing, their part. They're starting the breakdown process. It's just not fully finished yet. We just still have to continue to work with it. And okay, so before we just dive into the deep end of all of this, will you just kind of tell us a little bit about you and how you ended up with this position?
Yeah, sure. So, so I've been working in the compost world for about 4 years now. I have yet to meet anyone who said, I'm going to grow up and do compost. It's one of those kind of funny little niche worlds that you fall into from going through different things. But yeah, I grew up here in Boise, grew up with a family that was very active. We were always outside. We were in the outdoors. I had parents that instilled, deep values of environmentalism and caring for our planet, and all of the spaces that we are so lucky to have here. And I went on to study environmental engineering. So that was kind of my background into the environmental world, and did a lot of studying of microbiology and different systems, and kind of dabbled into solid waste and landfills and soil. But that wasn't really where I landed. So I went into consulting engineering for about 8 years after college, which I enjoyed. But then moved back here to Boise, and it was kind of right in the middle of the deep recession, and there just were not jobs in that field. So a couple career steps later, I ended up working for the city of Boise doing communications and outreach in a different department, which was really, really fun. And I got to learn so much about how cool it is to work for the city. And then finally found my way into this amazing job working in compost. So,
yeah, that's it's interesting. So have you been a part of it since the inception?
I have not. No, our compost program started almost 10 years ago now. We're about 8 years into it. And the planning for it started before that. But yeah, I kind of came into and inherited a program that was really exciting and really popular. So I'm very lucky.
That's really cool. Gosh, I can't believe it's been. I don't know why it feels like it was just yesterday that we got our bins, but I guess it has been.
Yeah. And so it started back in 2014, actually. There was a landfill study that was done countywide. So it was looking at all of Ada County and what was coming into our landfill. And the city of Boise kind of looked at the places where we could make a big difference and try to keep waste out of there. And I don't know at that time that we were really thinking about recycling it. It was just kind of like, how can we reduce the overall volume of waste? But that study found that over half of what was coming out of residential homes was organic. It was totally compostable, reusable materials that we were just landfilling. And so that was kind of the aha moment, and that was the beginnings of this program. The program actually launched in 2017. So you remember getting those carts, and
yes,
those were delivered to over 77,000 homes in Boise. So just that endeavor alone is pretty wild to think about. And it's so neat to see today that now it's really just a part of our residential services, and it's a part of most Boiseans' day-to-day life when they take out their trash and recycling and compost.
It definitely is. I think I'm embarrassed to say this in the beginning, and I'm definitely, obviously I told you my story. This is something that I'm familiar with. I was thinking about a bin that's going to be stinky all the time in my garage. And so at first I was really, I got it. I'm like, all right, I'll get the bin, but I don't think I'm going to use the bin. But I very quickly figured out, oh no, yeah, that's not a problem. You can figure out your ways around the stinkiness, and it's totally worth it. And we now have 2.
Yeah, that's great. So
our grass clippings and our grass things that we.
Yeah, and the stinky factor is a funny thing, because prior to the compost program, most of us were putting that stuff into our trash can,
right?
Which also stinks.
Exactly. Okay, so let's dive into it, so to speak. So tell us a little bit about let's say that somebody who. Actually, well, let's do this, because I think I read that almost everybody has bins, right? There's a very small percentage that do not.
Yeah, we have right now our rate's about 97% of our residential customers have a compost cart. And those that don't are typically folks who are very, very committed backyard composters. Although it's funny, a lot of people opted out at the beginning because I'm a backyard composter, I don't need this. And then quickly realized that, you can still put your weeds into this cart. You can put your really woody debris, or if you have a diseased tree or something you need to take out, we can take that and handle that because of the type of composting that we're doing. So a lot of those people have come back and actually gotten carts, but we do still have a handful of residences in Boise that don't have big yards and maybe don't have them. So
yeah. So is that so if you're trying to compost in your backyard, if you have a disease, let's just talk about that just for a second, so people understand it. So you have something diseased and you throw it in there. Is it because you can't get the compost pile hot enough in your backyard?
Yep, that's exactly right. So in general, in a backyard compost pile, you might, you're going to hit peaks of about 100 degrees or so, 105. which is really, really great. But it isn't enough to break down weed seeds or to really fully process material. So in a backyard pile, anything that you don't want to see come back out of it, you don't want to put into it.
Okay.
But when we're composting at our facility, we're reaching temperatures of about 155 to 160 degrees initially. And then it stays up at that temperature and kind of starts to come down. But we're well above the 131 degrees, which is what you need to kill pathogens for at least a month. So it's pretty wild. It can break down all kinds of things. It can break down basically any weed seed that you would put in will be completely obliterated by the end of it. And of course, there's more work that goes into that. But yeah, it's pretty neat.
So just getting to the science of that a little bit, so because it's the microbes that make it hot, right?
Yeah.
So why is it that you can get yours hotter than a backyard person can?
It's totally just scale. So, you think about, when you were a kid and you had to go to those horrible gym assemblies and go in there and everybody gets packed into this gymnasium and it's, almost June or something. And it gets incredibly hot and it's just those bodies moving around, breathing, respirating, doing what we do. And it's the same thing in compost. So when you're composting, you're just speeding up those natural processes that happen all around us in nature every day. So we're just creating an environment where microorganisms can grow and successfully, have little baby microorganisms and divide. And it's just their body movement and their breathing and their eating and their pooping and all those things that are creating that heat.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm way more fascinated about composting than I probably should be, but I always find it very fascinating. I also just the soil in general and all the microbes. It's always interesting to me. And I did some studying of it in college, so I kind of nerd out a little bit on microbes, but I always, when people are particularly afraid of microbes, for me, it's always turning to the fact that the vast majority are good. They're doing all these wonderful things, and composting is one of the many things they do. And in the soil, man, all the life in the soil is what makes your soil good.
Absolutely.
You kill your life in your soil, and you're killing your soil.
Yeah.
You got dirt.
Absolutely.
That's it. Oh, so cool. So recently, the composting program expanded though. So, it used to be there were all these things we couldn't put in, and now now we can put a lot more things in. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So when we launched the program, we were only taking yard trimmings and then vegetative food scraps. So, your peels and eggshells and kind of those really, I don't know, anything that's from a fruit or a vegetable in your kitchen. We were one of the first compost facilities in the state of Idaho. We were the first big municipal facility. So I think we went into it being a little bit conservative, not wanting to have any problems with odors or to have any big mistakes, because we knew we were going to be the trailblazer and the leader in this field. But our compost facility has been really successful, and it is actually incredibly easy to compost all food waste. It brings in a lot more of those nitrogen and phosphorus and all the other really important nutrients that our soil needs. But yeah, you can put now all meat, all dairy, all grains, pretty much anything that you could eat can go into your compost cart. And the benefit to this, it's to the compost, and our finished product is better because of it, but also we keep all that food waste out of our landfill. It's been in just recent years, we've learned so much more about how bad putting food waste into our landfill is, because it gets buried right away. And it starts to decompose anaerobically, so that's without oxygen, which means that rather than respirating carbon dioxide, those little bacteria are respirating methane, which is a very potent greenhouse gas.
Yeah.
And it happens so quickly in a landfill, it's before a system can be put into place to capture it and beneficially reuse that gas. So composting food waste is truly one of the most impactful individual climate actions that any of us can take.
So it doesn't, when you do it in the compost, when you do it purposefully through compost, it doesn't have the same effect as if you just throw it in the landfill and let it do its thing.
Yeah, that's correct. Because in composting, we turn the pile. You talked a little about that with your dad and the manure. And you're doing that to add oxygen back in. And so it's essentially just farming the right kind of bacteria, those bacteria that will respirate carbon dioxide. And that's what's happening all the time. That's what's happening if you leave your grass clippings on your grass. They're going to start to decompose. Or if a tree falls over in the forest, it might take longer. But that is natural decomposition on our planet. And so composting is really just the human engineering to speed up that process.
Makes sense. So is there anything that can't be composted?
Well, we don't want to take in any sort of like animal waste. I should say not all animal waste, because we will take your chicken manure and chicken bedding for sure. But we don't want to take dog or cat waste. And then the biggest thing we get in the carts that we really don't want is just trash. It's plastic. Sometimes it's accidental. You send your 5-year-old out with a bag of trash thinking they're doing their chore and it goes in the wrong cart. And sometimes folks use it as an overflow, thinking that, it'll get to the right place. Sometimes we get very well sorted other recycling put into the compost cart, where you get someone put all of their aluminum cans or something in there, and they're clean and they're washed, and you're like, well, we are not at the recycling center, so these are not going anywhere but the trash right now. But yeah, getting the plastic in there, it can be really a big challenge for us at the facility to get all that out of there.
Yeah, and how does that even work? I've wondered about that too, because I've seen people do, and then it's also with the garbage too. We're like, wait a minute, what's going to happen with that? And how do you deal with that? It always seems like everything's all going to the same place, and like it would just kind of get lost in the shuffle. But when it gets actually to the composting area, when they dump it, is there a little bit of a sorting that goes on?
There sure is, yeah. So our compost facility is, it's called 20 Mile South Compost Facility. It's located at the city's farm. It's our biosolids application site. So it's land that it's owned south of Boise. It's a pretty big facility. I think we have almost 40 acres of land to do composting there, but everything comes in the back of those garbage trucks, the collection trucks you see drive around your neighborhood. And it gets dumped out on the ground. We call it a tipping floor, but really it's just a big dirt area. And it gets spread out, and then actual people sort through it and hand pull out anything that shouldn't be in there. So something to think about when you're throwing overflow in or extra trash that you didn't have room for. It actually is a human being that has to go through all that stuff and pull it out. So and it's a lot of work. We bring in about 35,000 tons of material every single year. So that could be up to like 2,000 tons of material in a week during busy seasons.
Good grief.
It's wild. It's so much material. It is a mountain of compostable material. Of yard debris. So we really appreciate keeping all that stuff in your trash cart where it should be.
Yeah. I love compost. I love the smell of compost. I love the feel of compost.
Too.
I'm just such a geek about it. Do you add any microbes to it, or you just, what exists is what's there and it just multiplies and does its thing?
Nope.
Self-sustaining.
That's exactly right. So once we pull out any trash and things that shouldn't be in there, everything goes through a huge grinder, a big industrial machine that breaks up any of the woody debris that came in there. And what we're doing there is creating habitat for bacteria to grow on. So when you break your branches up, it creates lots of surface area where they can go in there. And then all the other stuff, the greens, if you're a backyard composter, you call it the greens, but your nitrogen sources, which would be things like grass or fresh leaves or food waste, are going to come in there. And they get mixed together with your browns, which is your woody debris, your carbon sources, and they just naturally create the right environment for bacteria to grow. So the only thing that we add is water. We do have a water truck and have to go out and water those piles and the windrows, and then we turn the windrows about once a week to get air back into there. So we just feed them water and air, and they make compost for us.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Will you talk a little bit about the ratio of the browns to greens?
Yeah, no, and that's it. That's an interesting thing. So if you're a backyard composter, you really have to be careful and make sure you're putting in enough nitrogen. And as your temperatures start to fall, you might need to add more grass or more food from your kitchen or those types of things. At the industrial scale, because it is so much material, we pretty much mix up and grind what comes in the door. It's usually a pretty good ratio. Our yards are their nature, so they produce the right ratio to actually do this decomposition. It can be a little bit challenging in the springtime. In May and June, we get a lot of grass that comes in, and so it makes a very nitrogen-rich compost at the end, but it is challenging to keep the air in there because, grass kind of gets mushy and it's hard to keep that aerobic. So it just needs to be turned a little bit more. And then in the fall, we get tons and tons of leaves, and they are typically very dry. They're very brown. There's not a lot of nitrogen. And again, it can take a little bit longer for the compost to heat up, but that's during all winter, and we're not getting a lot of stuff in there. So we can kind of keep those windrows on site and let them sit for a while and make sure we get to the right temperatures for it to start to decompose.
Mm. So cool.
Yeah.
Well, so what about if I live in an apartment? Am I able to do composting? Like how does that work?
Yeah. So our residential program, which is kind of our main compost program in Boise, is only for people who live in single family homes here in Boise. But that has been a little bit of a thorn in our side too. And, we get calls from people all the time who have moved to Boise and they've bought this awesome condo, or they're living in an apartment, they're in their first apartment, and they're just like, wait, what can I do? This isn't fair. And one thing in Boise, we do want to be a city for everyone. And so we did just last year launch a piloted food scrap drop-off program. We copied this from other communities that have very successfully done it. And so we have 2 locations in Boise right now where you can actually gather your food waste in your kitchen. You can register for the program. It is free. And then you can take it there and drop it off. And now that is going to our compost facility. We're pretty excited because we just got kind of approval to make this a permanent program that's going to stick around and to expand. So we're going to be adding 2 new sites as well.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Yeah. And, we weren't sure what the community response would be, because I was like, I don't know if I would really, gather all my food waste and put it in my car and drive it somewhere. But within the first year of that pilot, with only those 2 locations, we had well over 200 people register to participate, and tons of requests to have more locations. So
that's really cool. I was just thinking about, is Boise the only one that is there composting in any of the surrounding areas?
We are the only city in Idaho that has this full-scale program where we're going to collect from every home and then also run our own compost facility. Quite a few different cities do have the option, and you can opt into it. And then some cities do also have some seasonal yard waste collection programs where they'll pick up like just during the leaves or just in the summertime, kind of a seasonal type thing.
Okay, so they've got their own area, their own facilities where they're doing that. Then they're not
yeah, or taking it to a private composter. There's a lot of really great private composters in our area too. So
no kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, that's cool. I should probably know that as a Zamzo, but I didn't because I wasn't aware of that. So what about if somebody wants to use the compost? Because I'm assuming you don't just let it go and then it just like makes the super rich area that nobody ever grows anything in.
Yes,
I'm assuming
no.
people actually come and get it and use it, right?
They do. Yeah. We produce anywhere from about 20 to 25,000 yards of compost, which might mean more to you than most people, but it's a lot of material. And one of our biggest priorities is getting it back into our valley soils, just keeping those nutrients here local, cycling through, and kind of that circular economy of nutrients, and to really enrich our own soils so that we can grow healthy plants and do the right thing there. So we currently do give a lot of our compost back to customers. So anybody who is a compost customer is able to pick up 2 yards of material a year. It's included in the cost of the compost service. I don't know of any other cities that do that in such a comprehensive way. But really, we want people to get compost back in their yards. We want you to have healthy grass, and we want you to have soils that are biologically diverse and rich and get those nutrients back where they should be.
Absolutely. That was going to be my next question, is just talking about what actually it does for people's yards and gardens, and if they haven't gotten and picks them up. And again, if you're putting stuff in the green bin, that allows you, what did you say, 2 yards?
2 yards. Yep.
So, I mean, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. And I mean, compost is so cool. And it has even more benefits. Like, it helps you save water, because as you add organic material, so most of compost when it's done is just broken down organic material. And when we increase the organic material in our soil, it helps it to hold on to water. So we increase our water holding capacity. And there's some crazy, crazy numbers. If you can increase the organic percentage in your soil by 1%, your standard backyard will be able to retain the amount of water of a garden hose running for 4 hours.
Oh, man.
So you think about like when you get a rainstorm and we get these quick little, 1/4 of an inch or something, that's that's a ton of water for your plants, for your trees, for your grass. And when it's more than that, it holds it in there and can then feed it back into our aquifer. So
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And our soil is just so special here.
yes, yes.
So adding compost is really, I mean, for newcomers, if you're new to the Boise area and you're trying to grow a garden and you can't figure out why it's so difficult, there's a lot of things with our soil. It makes it a very, very challenging environment. Compost is our number one recommend. It's the number one thing that we say, you got to get some life in the soil.
Yeah.
Otherwise you're planting in clay.
Yeah.
Or sand, depending upon where you are in the, in the valley.
Yeah. But either way, it's going to be rough soil if it hasn't been worked and amended. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, it's so fascinating. I love it. I love everything about composting. And so, okay, let's shift just briefly here. So you're leading all of this. Like this is you're the head honcho of this whole project.
Of compost, yeah. So I work on a team. We do all of the solid waste services for Boise. So all of the trash, recycling, compost, and then also the kind of more niche programs are glass collection in the city, which is very cool, and household hazardous waste to try to keep those things that would be harmful out of the landfill. But yeah, I do work on a team, so I get a lot of support from my teammates, and it's great. And then, we also, here in Boise, we have a contracted hauler. We work with Republic Services, and they do all of our actual collection, and they do a really great job. And they also are contracted to operate the compost facility. So I work closely with them out at the facility. So it's all city owned, and then Republic brings in the material and then also operates all the heavy equipment and the processes needed.
Man, that's a lot of moving parts.
It is, yeah.
And literally.
Yeah.
but also people.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people. So can we talk about your leadership style? What kind of a leader are you?
Yeah, sure. Well, I don't know. I think I try to approach most situations just assuming good intent from everyone. I think that that's probably the most important thing. And listen to folks. Try to understand. Yeah, I know.
So
right?
That is the number one thing. I would agree with that. The listening and not hearing.
Listening.
Yeah. And listening to understand, not just yeah. I got it. You're like, that's incredibly challenging.
I don't think anyone's a natural listener. It's a skill we have to learn and work at and continue to work at, and also give ourselves some grace to make mistakes and then go back and realize, oh, I messed that up. I can try again.
So that in itself makes you, I think, probably a very good leader, because I think stopping and realizing, oh yeah, we do make mistakes and maybe we didn't do that perfectly, and apologizing and then
apologizing, right? Yeah, it's a pretty impactful way to talk to people. So
yeah, it is. So what has this journey been like? What has it been like taking this on and leading these people and doing this thing that's making the world a better place? Like you're doing something. You're actually one of the people doing something.
It's really cool. And, I think that's one of the things I love most about working in local government. I mean, and I know from the outside in, sometimes it can feel like this big black box of, red tape that's all stuck in together. But it's so cool. And I love that, this is my community. I grew up here. I love Boise. I moved back here because I love it. And I'm raising my own family here and putting down my own roots, so to speak, here. But it's so amazing to get to work for an organization that is truly making our community better today and in the future, and really forward thinking and forward looking. I don't know if I answered your question there, but
you did. Do you find that Boiseans do you find that we are accepting of things like composting stuff, or was that a hard sell?
Overall, yes. I think we do the right thing in Boise. We care for our environment. We care for our river. We care for our air. I think that this state and this valley has deep agricultural roots. So I think there are these very inherent ties to our land, where we just sort of have a cultural respect for it and an understanding that kind of spans our community, which is great. So I think composting, I think it's exactly what you said at the beginning. The, oh my gosh, where am I going to put this extra cart? May have been our biggest resistance to it. Or I don't trust that the city can do this right. Like, this is not going to be good compost. I'm really
I
worried.
definitely was that person. I'm like, I don't know. There's
Sure.
going to be weed seed in there.
Yeah.
I was totally that person.
Totally. Right. And understood. I mean, it's a big, challenging endeavor to learn and just be like, I'm going to build a huge compost facility and it's going to work. It's a pretty bold statement, right?
Yeah.
But, we do actually, we are a permitted facility here in Idaho, and then we test our compost too. So we participate in the U.S. Composting Council has a program called the STA certification. It's the Seal of Testing Assurance, which really just means that we are going to test our material and we're going to be transparent about it. So we have to post our test results. At the volume we produce, we test 4 times a year. So our most recent compost composition results are always on our website and always available. So I think that we're pretty proud to be a part of that and proud to be transparent. And we do make some really good compost. So
yeah,
I use it in my yard happily. So
that's really cool.
Yeah.
Is there like a national composting conference or
there is yeah it's possibly well you should come. It's probably the nerdiest group of people you've ever met, but it's very cool. The U.S. Composting Council is definitely kind of the biggest national organization, but they do host a really great conference every year. And
so what are like the breakout sessions like what are some of the topics that
compostable packaging and materials? You might talk about just different trends in equipment and how we're going to remove contamination. There's a lot of talk about how do we help people change their behavior to understand how important it is to get their food waste into their compost bin. And policy, kind of how do we work at the state level and the local level to have policies that help promote organics recycling. About all kinds of stuff. But yeah, imagine just 3,000 people who love compost descending into a city, and then every restaurant and every bar is filled with people talking about compost. So
I think I know what I'm going to get my dad for Christmas. He and I could go to a composting conference. I think he would probably love that too.
Yeah.
Oh, it could be really fun. Oh my gosh. Okay, so do you have how do your personal passions and what you do for work, how do those intermingle?
Well, I would say I love being outdoors. I love science. I love biology. I've always loved these things. These are just kind of passions forever. And I love gardening. I'm a big perennial gardener. I'm an absolutely terrible vegetable gardener. I can kill zucchini. I don't know anybody. I don't know how. But I do actually have like a really amazing perennial gardens, and I love doing that. I love my bees. I don't keep bees, but I do like make my yard so that I can have as many bees as possible. There's few things that can make me happier than sitting out and watching them.
I'm the same way.
Yeah,
Totally
they're just
geek out on
amazing.
it.
They're so cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say it definitely intersects there. I think that working in this field has taught me so much about the importance of soil and soil health. And it's funny, it was early on when I started into this, and I read the book "The Soil Will Save Us" by Kristen Olson, which if you haven't read it, it's a fantastic read. It's a little bit of an older book. I think it came out in the early 2010s. But it's just kind of the connection between our climate and our soil and just this whole ecosystem, and how we really have failed to recognize how complex and amazing our soil is, and how plants don't just put a root down and pull a nutrient and grow. That's not what's happening. So that book, and then I also got the advice from another gardener of stop watering your plants, water your soil.
Oh,
and I was
that.
like, what? So it kind of changed my approach to it. And now I think in my own backyard, and I'm always bringing in wood chips and messing with my own compost and things. And I really pay more attention to the soil than the plants. And I grow beautiful plants. So
that's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's totally brilliant. I love that. I'm going to steal it.
Yeah, you should.
Mind. I'll give you credit.
You should.
When I use it.
It wasn't me, but it's great advice, and it's really changed the success in my own garden. So
And it's true. We always talk about focusing on the soil. I don't take it to the water level though, but you're exactly right.
Yeah. And it could be feed your soil, not your plants, but truly like your soil health is more important than what the plants. The plants will be okay if you give them the right ecosystem. So.
Absolutely. And there are so many watering mistakes that we do that screw up the ecosystem.
Yep.
Overwatering is the biggest thing. I think people, particularly when it gets to the heat of summer, they just think they gotta have their sprinklers on all the time.
Yeah.
And then they come in and they're like, I don't know why I've got all these mushrooms.
Yeah.
or whatever.
Right.
You're like, well,
yeah.
I can help you out. I'm pretty sure. Let's talk about your watering. Let's start with that. So it's always kind of funny, but yeah. Oh man. Okay. Well, how do you, it's like we're both totally engaged. So this is kind of a funny thing to ask, but how do you keep the community engaged with composting and all the things that you do? How do you keep and because I think a lot of times it's cast off stuff. So it's like the stuff that we don't want to think about sometimes. So how do you engage people and keep the community engaged with that?
Yeah, no, you're right. It is. It's kind of you can put it in that cart and put it out at your curb and the trash fairy comes and then it's empty every
Exactly.
week. It's just magic, right?
Yes.
But it does go somewhere. There is no away when we throw things away. I think with the compost in particular, it's such a cool story locally because we do process it here locally. So it's our most successful recycling program. Over a third of the residential waste that is thrown away, that goes away, goes to our compost facility and is processed into compost. And that stays local. So, I mean, it's a full circular economy, not just of a material that came in, but of something that actually grew here in our valley, was then processed and then put back into our soil to grow again. That is just so magical and very, very cool. I think the challenge we have with communication is when things change, how do we reach 78,000 homes? How do we help people to understand the importance? And our big focus the last couple of years has been on food waste. It still is about a quarter of what we're throwing away out of our homes is food waste. And it's wonderful material for compost. It shouldn't be trash. It's not a waste, really. It's a resource. But there's a real ick factor for people about putting a bin on your counter and collecting, especially kind of like the oily, gross, greasy, type things. And those things really should go in your compost cart and not your trash. But yeah, so I think kind of figuring out how do we help people change their behavior, help them understand the importance of that's a more impactful thing than switching off a light. Not that we shouldn't switch off lights, but
But it's such an interesting, it's hard. That's a hard thing because we've only got so much space in our day to be thinking about these things.
And space on our counters, like
let's
be real.
Yeah, true.
It's hard. We're busy. Like there's a lot going on. And, whatever you do, if you have a job or kids or anything, it's hard to add one more little thing into your day. But kind of another cool stat I love is, so every 5 pounds of food waste that we keep out of our landfill, that we compost instead of landfilling, is equivalent to burning 1 less gallon of gasoline.
Wow.
So I think about if I want to drive my car, my car gets maybe 23 miles to the gallon. So if I want to drive 23 miles less in a week, compared to just putting my food waste into my compost cart, the food waste is way easier.
Wow. Okay, so just for our listener to think for a second, 5 pounds is think of a 5 pound weight. That's not very much.
It's not much. It's, if you have 2 people in a home, that's probably a week of food waste.
Yeah. That's really something.
Yeah.
So it is impactful. We really can make a difference. It's not I'm just one person. It doesn't matter. We really, as one person, you really can make a difference.
Absolutely. Yeah. And scale that across a year or a neighborhood. So,
well, this is, I think I know the answer to this question. I'm going to ask it anyway. What inspires you about the Boise community when it comes to sustainability?
Oh man. I mean, I love Boise. I love our community. I think we are a beautiful, accepting, wonderful place. It's home, so it's easy for me to say that. We have this beautiful river. It is the beating heart of our community. And I think so many things that we do, and the things we choose to support, our parks and our pathways and our foothills, and all of this is this ecosystem that is built around our river. And we care deeply. I think and with compost and getting compost back into our soils and caring for our soils is another way we can care for our river. It helps to keep pollutants from stormwater and other things from making down their compost, and adding that more microbial activity can help soils actually amend those types of things before they end up in our storm system. So it's these small things that really all you want to do is have better grass and grow better plants, but the impact of it is so huge.
Well, speaking of impact, I'm going to take a moment and thank our sponsors for allowing us to have this conversation today. This episode is brought to you by Zamzows, your local source for garden and pet and plant-friendly products. At Zamzows, we believe that healthy communities start with a healthy soil. So visit zamzows.com or stop by one of our 12 Treasure Valley locations.
Nobody knows like Zamzows.
Now we're going to change a little bit here, and we're going to go into our little section we call Sharing is Caring. I like to consider it rapid fire questions. So it's going to be a little different pace here. You actually don't have to answer them fast. You can answer them at any pace you like. Okay, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So what is a sustainability practice that you use at home?
Well, I compost my food waste and raise chickens.
Oh, you raise chickens.
I do, yeah.
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah, so they eat a lot of your food waste.
I was going to say.
Really cool. And they make the most wonderful feedstock for compost, chicken poop. If you compost in your backyard, it's great.
True.
So
yeah, people buy it in bags. And
yes.
You just get it. Naturally gets made in your backyard.
Free. Yeah.
Free. Well,
and we get eggs. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, I love chickens. Chickens are remarkably fun pets too.
They are.
They actually have little personalities, and
Yeah.
like you think of them as being. Like my brother always laughs that they're like dinosaurs with feathers, but
Yes.
they have these wonderful little personalities, and
They do.
yeah.
They make us laugh constantly. But yeah, they're not the smartest birds, but
this is true.
but they are fun.
All right. How about a book, a podcast, or a leader that has shaped your approach?
Oh, well, I'm going to go back to the book I mentioned earlier, The Soil Will Save Us, Kristen Olson. She's also written a bunch of other really cool books. But yeah, that shifted my thinking on the importance of soil and soil health, and how soil does not exist in a vacuum. It's a part of what we do. It's part of our air. It's part of our climate. It's part of our plants. So
Yeah. Are you, this is off topic.
That's okay.
Are you an avid reader? Do you read a lot?
Oh, I wish I read more.
I always
I
wish
have
that.
little kids. I used to read more, but goals, right?
Well, you'll get to.
I
You
am
have
an
little
avid
kids.
reader, but I
Yeah.
tend to be reading like what my 11-year-old was reading and was like, "Mom, this is a great book." And sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. But yeah.
Or like I would very often read whatever Rafi was reading. My daughter's name's Rafi. Whatever she was reading, just so that I would be like on top of it.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so then I could ask her questions. So what did
Yes.
you think about chapter 4?
Yeah, I do that. Or our trips to the library sometimes are like, I don't have time to go and like browse and find what I really want to read. So it's like, oh, here's the librarian's recommendation. And they're usually great.
Yeah.
Or the new shelf, because I can do that on the way to the kids section.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so how about a local business, garden, or a park that you think more people should know about?
Oh, man. Bugs.
Oh,
So the Bugs Garden out on 5 Mile, it's a city park. It's Comba Park. We actually have a food scrap drop-off bin there, which is cool. But it is magic. And the team that works there, it's a small team of people, and I do not know how they do what they do. It's the most beautiful garden.
It is.
Laura is the gardener there. She's amazing. And she actually composts almost all of their organic waste on site.
really?
She has this huge, very, very cool compost pile she runs in the wintertime. It's so neat.
I need to check that. I've been there
yeah.
several times, but I've never seen the compost pile.
But
I
the
guess I
work
wasn't
they're
paying
doing there, like with this urban agriculture and urban gardening, and then they work with kids, and they teach people how to cook food from their garden.
Yeah,
Because I
it's
think we've all
great.
done that, where you get a pack of seeds and you're like, I grew okra.
What do I do with this?
Oh boy, yeah. But they grow all this really, really diverse different types of food, and they cook it on site. And it's so cool. So,
Yeah.
but it's also just a neat place. They have bees. They have an apiary.
Yeah.
A neat place to just go spend some time.
Yeah, you look. It's in the public park, so you can
Yep.
just go hang out there. You
You
don't
sure
have
can.
to like make an appointment or anything. Just
Yep.
show up. I like to do it when I'm mad at people. I go over there, and then by the time I leave, I'm not mad anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. Something outside of work that recharges you.
Oh, I think getting to the mountains, taking my kids to the mountains, you know, in the winter we're avid skiers, and I love skiing, but really I just like to get out in the air and get out of the city.
Yeah.
We love to go camping and hiking and just be in natural spaces. Like, absolutely recharges me. I also I sing in a community choir at a church, and I sing. I love that. I used to love to do music when I was younger, and it was funny, one of those things you kind of get away from as you grow up. And then, you know, I had a friend who was like, "Oh, come sing in my choir," and now I go and I sing with people, and that fills me with joy and kind of teaches you that we can come together and make something beautiful despite all of our differences. So
I love that answer on so many levels. Great answer. Yeah. And I love it that you sing. I love it that is one of the things that you do that makes your heart happy.
Yeah.
That's, we should do more of those kind of things for ourselves. I think sometimes with singing in particular, we get past a certain age and we're like, I gotta stop.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm glad that you don't.
Or I don't have time, or why would I do that? But it's like,
no,
it's just that joy of making music with people, I think is so special. So
well, there's nothing like it. I love it. Okay, now we're at the part of the show. This is a question we ask everybody. You can answer it however you like. It can be applied to anything.
Okay.
And you also, it doesn't have to be 100% true. So. Okay, so here's the question. What is something that nobody knows?
Okay. I looked up some cool things to prepare for this.
Oh,
so,
I love it.
All right. And, okay, in a cup of healthy soil, there are more individual organisms than all of the people who have ever lived on Earth.
Like since the beginning of time?
Since the beginning of humanity. So
1 cup?
1 cup of soil.
Wow. Man,
so think about the scale of our own importance and these ecosystems that we need to nurture. So pretty
that's
cool.
A phenomenal. I love that answer.
Yeah, I think it's true. So
everybody's gonna be looking it up. Wait a minute, double check it. That is a fantastic. Thank you. Yeah. That was great. Yeah. Awesome. Lisa, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
This has been an absolutely lovely conversation. I hope it's been educational for our listeners, and I hope it's been inspirational too.
Yeah, good. And you know, we're here at the city, so reach out if you have questions about compost. I love talking to our constituents and our customers and anybody who's just interested in learning more. So
awesome. How do they get a hold of you if they want to, or not you maybe personally, but in the system? How do they get information if they want it?
On Compost, we have an email account. It's curbit@cityofboise.org, and we check it constantly. So that's the best way, and then that gets to the right person. So
awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you again for being here. This has been wonderful. If you enjoyed today's conversation, follow the podcast and please leave a review. I would love it so much. And remember, the next time that you're scraping your plate, you've got the power to turn food waste into something good for Boise's future. Next week, we'll hear from another incredible voice shaping the Treasure Valley. Until then, thanks for listening.